We're going to start with the announcements. So the announcements really is just the calendar. So the initial deadline has come and gone. That was last week, July 25th. A letter went out to superintendents for those LEAs that did not meet the initial deadline. But for all of those that did, which I think is the vast majority of the districts, congratulations and thank you very, very much for all of your hard work. We truly appreciate it. We are currently in the amendment window. And what does this mean? What is the amendment window for? You can use this time to make edits to your data as you are still reviewing reports, or at SELPAs are coming back to you saying, hey, can you change this? This is the time to make edits. If you need to, you can decertify your current SELPA or LEA approved reports, and you can certify a newer revision. If you don't know how to do that, if you've never done that before, we have videos on YouTube on how you can navigate and certify different revisions. Let us know if you want us to show you where those are at. But the idea is that by now you should have all of your data in CALPADS as close to final as possible, right? So the data changes that you're doing are minimal, and you don't have to redo the whole thing, hopefully. The final deadline. The final deadline is August 8th, and that is just next Friday. If we're counting only working days, that's 7 days, 7 working days until the final deadline. And as a reminder, SELPA approval is required for end of year 3 and end of year 4 for this final deadline. So really make sure that you're communicating with your SELPA, specifically if you're doing disapprovals and you're going between one revision and the other. Make sure that you're talking with your SELPAs to make sure that you're in line and that you know that they're done and that they don't need you to make any updates, right? The implications of not meeting this final deadline are much heavier than just the letter that was sent out last week. Gary is showing us up on the screen the CSIS website, and on there, if you Google consequences, you can see a document that is titled How CALPADS Data Are Used and Consequences. We highly suggest you take a look at that, particularly if you have folks in your district that are maybe dragging their feet a little bit, or they're not really like in tune with how important this is. This gives you an idea of what the impact is. And Gary's just scrolling through it, but you can see 0 counts, 0 counts, 0 counts. It's really going to make an impact for state, federal reporting, and even some funding calculations. You can use that to pass around to your folks if you need to. And lastly, I just wanted to mention the cohort, because if you are an LEA that has high schools, you don't want to neglect your cohort report. It is not part of your certification. So sometimes a lot of people just kind of focus on end of year certification submissions, but your cohort is, and Gary's showing you on the screen how to pull it, it's under your accountability and monitoring report. So if you have high schools, this is a report that you want to make sure you're looking at as well. All right, that's it for me. We're going to move on. Angela or Matt, do you have any announcements?
You've got the known issues up that we did have a deployment yesterday and some fixes went in. We still have a few outstanding report issues for end of year, so hopefully they get those wrapped up by Tuesday.
Randy, do you have any announcements?
No announcements, except those of you that are special education data coordinators, just know that keep working on your data quality items that were found in the data quality analysis. Also, please, SELPA directors, definitely check the document that was sent out, because we do have some updates to some of the recommended fixes or recommended actions based on refinements that we're making to some of the query logic. The other thing I would tell you is that we've been asked by several SELPA directors if we're going to actually rerun the data quality analysis to see how you guys are doing. And the answer is unfortunately no, just because we don't have the time nor the resources to do it right now. So please make sure that you verify that the fixes are in place within CALPADS by reviewing the related reports.
And then do we have Sean or anybody else from the CALPADS office? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. But if they're here and they wanted to say anything, just jump right in.
Sean is here. Let me
Oh.
make sure she gets her abilities. There we go. Okay, Sean, you have your abilities now.
Thanks, Marshall. I got left in the waiting room, so it's okay. We don't have any announcements, Alex, but thank you.
Okay. All right, we're gonna start off with Soraya. Question 1 says, what would cause the total cumulative enrollment unduplicated count on the 1.21 to be different than the total unduplicated cumulative enrollment count on the 14.1? Is it okay if the counts are different, or does that indicate a possible data discrepancy? Kyron's typing an answer, so
I was just about to say it's the cumulative enrollment type. If you switch 121 from cumulative enrollment to adjusted enrollment, it will focus on just the current academic year.
perfect. All right, thank you, Kyron.
For the total cumulative enrollment on 1.21, it does include the 30. It has it like in the asterisk of the user manual for column 8.
Yeah, and you can see, hopefully you guys can see my screen and just what Sean said. This one's including the 30, and if you look at the 14.1, wait,
It also does.
it's not
Is it-
showing
It's the 20, the
20.
one that 21 had the 20.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
20 there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No
I knew
20
it was a
here.
number.
Yeah.
Thank you. Soraya, you have a question 2. We're going to skip it, and also your question 3. We're going to come back to those. We're going to go next to Judy from Fresno COE. Hey, Judy. Question 1 says, when will the CALPADS rollover take place? I know September. I don't know if we have a specific date yet.
I don't know if we have a date either, but it's always after the close of end of year.
Next up is Natasha from Escondido. Q1 says, if we have students who attend expanded learning opportunities after July 1st, but do not end up enrolling for the actual school year, would we still send up a LEAP file for them at the end of the 25-26? I would think no, because we need that enrollment for the regular school year.
Great.
Yeah, and I think Gary, you're trying to find, there was a flash that was
Flash, but-
specific on LEAP. It was recent.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah, if you go back. Yeah, there you go,
This one,
305.
305.
And so, Natasha, if you there's a section that's specific on expanded learning, and it does talk in quite some detail of what we're expecting. So if this still doesn't answer your question, you can send us a ticket and we can dive deeper. Erica, question 1. Do suspensions that occur during the summer need to be reported for special ed students? If so, could you please provide guidance on how to report them in CALPADS?
The answer
Brandy,
is
correct me. Oh,
yes. Brandy wants to take it. Go for it.
All students need to have their
Yeah.
summer incidents reported. We have an FAQ, Erica. I have it up, so I'll type it in the answer box there for you.
The short answer is yes, and you just put in a 1-day enrollment for that student if it's at a different LEA, but if it's at the same LEA where the student's enrolled through the school year, then you don't have to put up that enrollment record, but you may have to open it back up.
The FAQ says to put a 1-day enrollment using a secondary enrollment status.
Yeah, if they're at a different LEA than the regular school year, correct?
A different school.
Even if it's at the same school, if they're not enrolled in summer, because we don't collect summer school enrollment, this FAQ says to just put them as a 1-day enrollment with secondary as the status.
Yeah. I think it's that last sentence.
The
that Sean
only
is talking
issue,
about.
the only issue with the secondary enrollments for students with disabilities is that we don't count. Well, okay, no, forget it. Just disregard what I was about to say. I was thinking of something else.
All righty. Moving on to Eldrick from Fresno. Question 1 says, can we get a copy of that page, how CALPADS are used in consequences? And Rebecca, sharing is caring. She posted the link on there. So thank you, Rebecca.
Matt put it in the chat as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Shelly's question 1, please share a link. Oh, okay. Share to the consequences for not certifying.
And
All right.
Shelley, please tell me you're not going to miss the deadline.
No.
That would be a first for you. Drop me an email if you need a phone call.
Next up is Alice.
I'm sorry, Shelley, I'll
Yes.
actually drive out to you too. Okay, we can work on the guidance together.
I know
VIP.
she's usually right on top of everything, so I'm guessing there's something else going on locally.
Yes.
Alrighty. Alice, question 1. This is my second end of year and first time having to LEA disapprove to make an amendment on end of year 3. I was already SELPA certified too. Once I make the amendment in end of year 3 and submit, do I also have to resubmit end of year 4, again followed by end of year 2 and 1? I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. So this is what I would say. Do your changes for end of year 3. Oh, and Gary's showing you, I believe Gary's going to take us to there was a YouTube video that we made on how to toggle between revisions and decertify one and certify a newer one. When you go to the top, if you search for revisions, I think it should on that. I think that's gonna go
Not
everywhere,
here.
and I think that's searching everywhere in YouTube.
Oh.
But if you go down, there's a magnifying glass right next to playlists.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah. Because who knows what you're gonna find in YouTube when you search for that. But so what I was going to say is make your revisions, right? And you can look at your revised uncertified end of year 3 and see that the changes that you made are there, they're displayed in your reports, but also make sure that your certification errors are 0 still, right? And then once that's set, then you can disapprove and reapprove. But in terms of end of year 4, if your data didn't change, then I don't know that you have to decertify end of year 4 if your data didn't change. But Brandy, do you feel like they need to?
Just to repeat that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. If they're making changes to end of year 3 and they had to decertify, and then do they also need to do end of year 4 if their data didn't change? So that the revision IDs align.
It depends on what you're revising. So one of the biggest issues that we had last year was a misalignment between the exit codes in each of those submissions. So folks that were certifying end of year 4 prior to end of year 3, you certified that submission, and what that looks like to us from a data perspective is it's saving all of the information as it was for the end of year 4 submission at the time you certified. And at that particular point in time, many of the exits for those students had not been submitted because you guys are certifying those and you're required to do that for end of year 3 submission. So I guess my point is, if what you were fixing in end of year 3 were exit codes, that matters. It matters, particularly if those are students with disabilities, because we need those exit codes for federal reporting purposes, and we need those 2 submissions to say the same thing.
And Alice said that it's for a discipline expulsion.
And again, it matters I think it matters overall, because when we talk about for discipline, we're not only looking at those students with disabilities that were expelled by race ethnicity, but we're also looking at all gen ed kids by race ethnicity. So that matters as well.
Okay. And Ethan's saying
I know you didn't want to hear that. I'm sorry.
No. It's what's needed. So it's good to hear, what we're expecting. And Ethan says that their SELPA is insisting that end of year 3 and end of year 4 snapshots have the same cert timestamp. So they've been decertifying and recertifying. And Amber's saying, just to be safe, I recertify them all again. Yeah. And I think we're in agreement, though, that end of year 2 and end of year 1, those are okay to be a different revision ID. It's only 3 and 4 that we really care about. If you wanted to do all 4, that's totally up to you. But end of year 3 and 4 are the ones that we're asking to be hand in hand. Okay. Next up, Bavita from Poway. Question 1. Issue number 7230, should it be categorized under fall 1 or general? I don't think it impacts end of year 1. 7.
Fall
Looks like
input.
it's an input validation, so it should say general instead of end of year 1 under the submission.
Okay. So we'll change that. And I think I wrote that up, so I have to make a note for myself. Okay. 7 to 30. Okay. Thank you. All right. Ethan Hurtis, question 1. Is it important that retained seniors have their 25-26 enrollment records preemptively created in CALPADS in order for them to show up as still enrolled instead of dropouts on the cohort reports when they're finalized on August 15th? I thought it didn't really matter as both were not grads, but his current email following up about end of year certs mentioned this being important. I would
believe
say,
it's in last year's flash
oh,
on graduates. And Ethan, yes, so they should be enrolled though. Important to retain that retain. Yes, so those seniors that are still continuing with you, they should have the exit code of, I think it's E155 that they're continuing still with you.
156.
156, thank you. That's the newer one, yes, sorry. The E156, and then they should have that subsequent enrollment. And again, I'm almost positive it's in last year's flash on graduate guidance.
Last year. You need to have some kind of index. Can't remember all of these.
Or we could just have Paula and Brandy's brains.
Or Joe the Tan Flash. Joe the
Right.
Flash Tan.
That too.
Here we go. Is it this one?
Yes. And then scroll down if I think they don't.
Here's the. LA should re-enroll an exit student from the school that is granting the diploma. The one-day record as follows, and then here's the information.
There you go. And anybody remember, or I mean, Gary, what flash number is that? I
That
can't see it.
was 274 from last year.
Yay. At least I can tell you what period it's from.
That helped.
yeah. And I think that, I mean, so yeah, Ethan is saying that they're not graduating though. These are just students that are going to continue on for the next academic year. So I think the guidance is still, I think if I remember, and I know that Paul will know this off the top of his head,
It's
but
the
I believe
cohort
that,
thing,
yes,
the
but
membership cohort.
I believe that for the feds, there's only 2 outcomes, right? It's either you graduate or you didn't. But for us, for the cohort, we're giving you different buckets. And so if you wanted to see the students go from your dropout count into the still enrolled column, it's important that you give us that new enrollment for the 25-26 academic year before that August 15 date. And it's not just for you, it's also for your fellow districts, right? Because a student could have finished with you and then go to another LEA for their super senior year. And so it's incumbent on them to report the next enrollment so that your cohort shows the still enrolled. So anyway, all that to say that you know, if you have students that are going to continue on as 5th year seniors, then you should be reporting their enrollment before that August 15th date so that it shows up in your still enrolled bucket.
And it says that exact thing at the bottom there. Alex, it's right above the change to exit category. Code E156 definition, students who were exited within E156 and who do not. There you go.
Okay. Larney from Oxnard. Question 1 says, when a student was exited from us with reason code E140, no known enrollment from our LEA, but there is a subsequent enrollment from another LEA, it's a student being counted in our dropout rate. How about our cohort graduation rate? Is it included in the denominator? I believe it depends on when they re-enrolled at the other LEA.
As long as they re-enroll before census day, they're okay.
I think so. I
So long
believe that
as
it's.
I think it's so
go for it.
long as the subsequent enrollment is dated prior to the next census day, it
Mm.
gets rolled in as still enrolled.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then whether or not it's counted in your cohort, it's going to depend on a multitude of factors. So no, it shouldn't be if Paul and Alex's guidance is followed. But then also you'd want to make sure to check with the technical guide to ensure all parameters are met there. If you have a question for whether for cohort specifically and what's showing up on your dashboard, if you can email dashboard@cd.ca.gov.
And Chris makes a good point that you can see the current category on your 15.2 report, which is your student list. And also, if these are students that are currently 9th grade, 10th graders, you can look into the future in CALPADS. You can just change the academic year on there, and so you can get ahead of the ball, ahead of the curve, not ahead of the ball. Yes, it still applies. But yeah, Gary's showing you up on the screen how you can look into the future. You can pick a cohort year that's still to come, and so you can see students' statuses now, or cohort categories, I should say. Moving on, Angela, Arcadia, question 1. Can you please elaborate on what the CALPADS rollover is? Sean or Angela, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's just rolling over to the new academic year in terms of code sets and any new data elements that were added or retired, all that good stuff.
Next up is Leah. Question 1 regarding students at the beginning of the year. I am looking for official documentation on the handling of pre-enrolled students who missed the first several days of school. Do districts change the start date for those students to their actual first physical day present, or are they required to show those initial absence days? I want to make sure I'm communicating the correct information to my sites. Great question. Trying to think if we have official documentation on that.
Look at Flash 134.
Flash 134.
Yes, honey. I just answered a question like this today, which is so weird. Yeah, it's about how to document.
It's already archived in the CDE website, but if you go to our user manual, Kyron is.
I'm almost positive it's in there.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's a, I think 132 talks about when to disenroll a student, 134 talks about no-shows. But it's in the Fall 1 roadmap. Or maybe you can look at it through there.
134?
It's in the user manual. You can search for 134 or Flash 134. Or I'll put the link in the chat.
Isn't it somewhere else though? Like, isn't it in the user manual itself, just beyond the flash, Kyron?
It's in the roadmap, either of
Rebecca
I
put
didn't.
it in the chat too. She beat us
yeah.
all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rebecca.
We appreciate it, as we all scramble.
So yeah, I believe, Brandy, those are the ones that say that the student has to go through the STAR process or a full investigation before you're.
So I can tell you that based on, now I don't know if it's changed, and Ron can address this if it has, but you know, when we were working with the attendance office here at CDE about figuring out what that date should reflect, is the enrollment start date is when the student was expected to attend, right? So if the student was expected to attend on the first day of school, then you should not adjust the enrollment start date to when the kid actually came. So if they decided to extend their vacation to Aruba for the first 2 weeks of school, you shouldn't move their enrollment start date because they were expected to be there for those 2 weeks of school. And I don't think that's changed.
No, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You're correct.
All right. Next up is Carol. Question 1, is the EDCS Sunbucks reporting window for 24-25 still available? I don't know. Gary's taking us to the flash that talked about EDCS.
Is there a deadline somewhere?
Yeah, I thought that there were dates maybe down somewhere else. Or was it a different flash?
Previous one.
I put it in the chat. It's from Flash. The one that got revised. 297. Is that what you're on, Gary?
Flash 297? Nope, I'm on 307.
Says it's open till December 31st.
All right. Yeah, so you definitely have some time. Next is Chris. Q1 says, is statistical significance being calculated when disproportionality is flagged? Well, that's Brandy for sure.
Oh, you're muted, Brandy.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see the question. I was answering another one.
The question is statistical significance being calculated when disproportionality is flagged?
The disproportionality calculations are actually outlined in methodology document. So it's coming up with a risk ratio. So, you know, Chris, I'd be happy to provide you the document. And actually, Milo, isn't it in one of our box links?
Yes, I'll find it and I'll
Awesome.
put it in the chat.
Great. Perfect. She's going to send you how the risk ratio is calculated for disproportionality and significant disproportionality.
Right.
Oh, there it is. Soraya did it. Thank you, Soraya.
Thank you all. Leah, I see your question too, and we're going to skip it for now, circle back to it. Next is Joy from Placer County, SELPA. The question is, can you clarify? We have 3 students that were exited as graduates correctly in year 3. However, the SWITS exit did not report to CALPADS. We added the SWITS exit into CALPADS to reflect they are no longer eligible the day after their exit date. Do we need to disapprove the end of year 3 and 4 and reapprove to reflect the change?
So the reason that we've asked you to amend the dates of the SWID's not eligible effective start date is because it affects all reports in CALPADS. Okay, so because all reports in CALPADS have, virtually all of them anyway, have a students with disabilities filter. But that students with disabilities filter is looking at the student's special education status as of their exit date. And so if it's not eligible, that student will not show up as a student with disability on any CALPADS report. So if you're asking if it impacts other areas of CALPADS, the answer is yes, it does. It does affect end of year 3. So if you ran the students with disabilities filter in end of year 3, those students right now would not show up because they look like they're not eligible on their exit date.
Next is Charlene, question 1. My question is regarding certification order as well. Our end of year 3 was approved on June 18th. Then some special ed students had program setting changed, and end of year 4 was finally approved on July 18th. Since nothing changed in end of year 3, do we need to disapprove, then LEA approve end of year 3 and 4 together? I think the consensus is yes, right? Ideally, we'd want end of year 3 and end of year 4 to have the same revision date or revision ID. Okay, Carol, thank you. Larnie's question 2, and I think we got everyone's question 1, so we're going to circle up to Soraya's question 2 at 3:02 p.m. Question 2 says, after upload of an SENR, how long until the SSID extract is refreshed to display the newly uploaded enrollments? And then Angela from Arcadia says, in my experience, I have found that it takes about 5 to 10 minutes after uploading an SENR before the SSID extract is refreshed. I don't know that there's a specific time. I don't know if anybody else from the CSIS team, do you know?
Time to go get a drink and then come back.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just wait till it says at least post it and then still give it a minute after that to make it to the file.
Okay. So Soraya, yeah, we don't have an exact answer, but it definitely shouldn't be super long, right? So 5 to 10 minutes, anything more than that, I would question. Now to Soraya's question 3, says, what would cause a blank result SELA ELAS code field on the SSID match tool for a single match student with historical CALPADS and SELA data? We encountered a few students with blank data in this bucket, but when we pulled them up in CALPADS, we confirmed they did have an ELA status present. Interesting.
That sounds like it might be a defect. If you want to put in a ticket, you can ask for me and I'll take a look at it. Need the job ID and the local student IDs.
Leah's question 2 says, documenting assertive discipline incidents. We use ARIES and I'm looking for regulation regarding information entered into description of incident. We're not permitted to use names of other students, but IDs aren't addressed. I'm thinking we shouldn't be using that either. I'm not finding documentation regarding this. Does anyone have guidance?
I don't have guidance around ARIES specifically, but I can provide you maybe clarity into why ID numbers are used, local ID numbers are used. And that's because parents can request records, or sometimes they might be able to see them versus viewing their parent portal. And so, in order for the confidentiality of other students per FERPA, you do not want their names included. So that's why we recommend either local ID numbers typically be used. So then therefore you can easily reference that back. And that's typically a standard practice across LEAs. But Leah, that's going to directly go to whichever administrator is over your assertive discipline, as they typically have detailed steps on what to include into records when principals or administrators are writing that up. And then, yeah, I'm going to stop there.
All right. Makes sense. Larnie's question 2 says, kind of concerned. Oh, sorry, connected. Kind of connected to my question 1. In our data quality with SPED included in validation 24 of data quality, are our SPED students who were dropped with E140 but have subsequent enrollments in CALPADS from another LEA? Is validation 24 not seeing the subsequent enrollment, or am I missing the reason behind the validation 24? Validation 24 is for indicator 2, described as percent of youth with IEPs dropping out of high school.
Yeah, Larnie, I think, I don't know if your ticket was the specific one that we addressed, but essentially, we told you historically when I worked in CalPads, and they probably still do, is that E140 is representation that a student was truant, right? And so sometimes you're going to get an ERD if the student re-enrolls elsewhere that says, hey, this student re-enrolled. You might want to check the C140, and you guys have questions like, well, they actually were truant. They didn't go to school. There was a gap in enrollment, right? So I think you need to use your judgment as to whether or not changing the exit code is appropriate in these cases, because really E140 matters for indicator 2 if it is the last enrollment of the academic year for indicator 2. Okay. That's when it matters, because if the student was truant at the end of the year, then they will be counted for SPED purposes in indicator 2 as a dropout. But if E140 is used and the student re-enrolls a week later, wouldn't you rather change that to a T160, right? Because then the student doesn't get counted as truant. And sometimes you guys just don't know that they've re-enrolled elsewhere. You just can't find them. So, I mean, I think you have to use your discretion. And I think the threshold that we used was if it's more than a week that the student has been disenrolled and then re-enrolls elsewhere, then just leave the E140. It's fine. Our data quality analysis, like I said, it's going through refinements, and this is one of those areas of refinement. So if you look in the recommended action for that particular data quality check, we did make an update to that saying specifically related to E140s.
That is all the questions so far. Oh, no. Question 4, Soraya. SPED quality question. I think that's QA. Validation 10. We confirm these no-shows are true no-shows, not enrollments we added to capture SPED data for the student. Any action needed on our end, or can we leave the data as is? These are not preschool or adult students, just simply students that enrolled with us and didn't show up and got picked up elsewhere.
I don't have it memorized. Just give me a second. What is number 10?
You don't have it memorized?
I don't. Let's see. Check the students with disabilities and 470 and the exit date. Okay, so the problem here is not that they're not no-shows, by the way. The problem here is that if these are students with disabilities, they will not show up on the SPED reports if the exit date is 1 day prior. So fix it. Okay. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the way our snapshot process works. If you change it to the same date, right? So the enrollment start date and the exit date are the same, those kids will actually show up on your SPED reports. If you don't change it, they won't show up. So you can't see them. You won't certify them.
Follow up. Do we need them to show up on our SPED reports if they never attended with us and we never serviced them?
They're students with disabilities. So very likely they were evaluated and possibly had meetings. I don't know specifically which which kids we're talking about here. If you want more details, just go ahead and send in a ticket and we can respond to the specific students that we're looking at or that are in your specific data quality analysis. But anybody who is evaluated, even if they didn't receive services, folks, this is really important. For purposes of special education, if a student receives parental consent for evaluation, that's when you become responsible. And so the fact that this student showed up in that analysis tells me that something to that effect happened. Either they had parental consent for evaluation, they're pending initial evaluation, they were evaluated and were found ineligible. All of that stuff is relevant and will need to show up on your SPED reports. So that's why we're telling you to change the dates.
All right, we are done with questions again. I'm gonna Holly hang out. Oh, yes, I knew it. Someone was typing, I could feel it. Annette, TK enrollment. I have a district that enrolled a TK student that does not turn 4 until the middle of September. Is that student marked as non-ADA until their 4th birthday? Non-ADA enrollment status 50 is very specific to who you can use that for. So those are your infant students and your private school students that are enrolled for special education services. But that's it. Those are the only two scenarios in which you can use that enrollment 50. Everyone else is either primary, short-term, or secondary enrollment. So again, for CALPADS purposes, we don't collect ADA information, right? It's a little deceiving because the word on there, so it says non-ADA. But if your students aren't generating ADA locally for ADA purposes, that's a coding you do separately in your SIS. For us, you can report that student as a primary enrollment, and the ADA reporting is done separately. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone can articulate that better.
To do with, you're correct, Alex. The way I like to think of it though is that yes, it's done locally, but it also has to do with the coding that's done on what's called like the back end of your SIS systems, typically. So make sure that that information is correct as well. So that way, when you're sending up the file, it reports to CALPADS correctly. So it may show a different coding on your front end for clarification purposes is what Alex is describing. But on the back end, it might show that 10, just regular enrollment to us. So you want to ensure that that's done correctly. And I'm not sure if you're the person at your LEA that does that, or if not, but whoever manages your SIS system.
Larney's Q3 says, can I get a tip or suggestion on what we should be focusing on for the 3.9 report? Course sections completed. Anything on this report will reflect on our dashboard. Thank you. 3.9. I don't know if there's anything in particular. You know what? So two things come to mind. For whether or not this counts on your dashboard, there's the CALPADS to Dashboard Handbook connection. I'm butchering the name, but there's a
Connection to the connection
Connecting
to the
CALPADS to the
dashboard.
dashboard handbook.
Yeah, handbook.
I scrambled all the words, but they were there. So on there, it's super handy because it gives you all the different reports that you can look at from CALPADS, and not only that, but it also tells you which filters you can use, and it's really handy. So I suggest that you take a look at that to figure out what what you can review that will end up on the dashboard. But the other thing that came to mind is the checklist, our end of year checklist, and that is in our user manual. There's a tab on there that says reports on there, and sometimes there's tips and tricks on that may be helpful.
Definitely look for your college credit courses. I'll tell you that for sure.
That's a big one then. So up by where we have the milestones, Gary, right below that. There it is.
Oh, it is. I skipped
Mhm.
right over it.
It is kind of tiny, but if you click on the third tab on that spreadsheet,
Getting there. There we go.
yeah. Okay. Well, it doesn't, so see, there's a 314 has tips and what to look for. We don't have that for 3.9. Brandy did mention that it's a good place to look for if you make sure that you've reported your college credit courses. So that's one thing that you can look at. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has any tips or tricks, but that's what we got. And it says, thank you. Sin Q1. Fatal for fall 1 and fall 2 appeared in data discrepancy for 24-25. Do these need to be cleared before certifying end of year? I guess it depends on what the validation is for, because there's some things that may come up, although, well, yeah, because end of year is encompassing the whole year, right? So maybe something that impacts fall 1 and fall 2 may also show up on your end of year. So I guess I would say depends. If we want to be super technical about it, right? If it's not in end of year, it's not going to, CALPADS isn't going to stop you from certifying. But again, just because something that I always try to remind folks, just because you're error-free doesn't mean that your quality is good, right? So being error-free just means that you're going to be able to push the button, but you got to really take a look at everything, even your warnings. Warnings are super important as well. So it's not going to prevent you from certifying, but is your data of good quality? That's the question that you should be answering. So yeah, it doesn't hurt if it's just one or two and you know how to fix them, then go for it, just to be safe. Eugenie, question 1. Where can we find ADA documentation info on CDE's website? I sometimes get questions on this and want to provide a source. Angela, did you want to?
Yeah, I found the attendance accounting website. So as soon as I click send, Eugenie, it's going to jump over to the answered tab. So look for it there.
We are at 3:52. Maybe hang out for another minute in case someone else is typing.
Oh, attendance accounting isn't always, I'm sorry, I think I missed the question.
They were asking for ADA resource, like some, where can we find ADA documentation on CDE's website?
The PDAC handbook that your CBOs typically have sometimes is more useful because sadly, when you go to the attendance accounting, it's more just for instructional minutes where they may not always be able to answer your questions. Hold on. I think I might have. I just hope I get the acronym right.
Is it
Here it is.
PADC? Is it the principal
It's
apportionment data
ADA is
collection?
reported. Here it is. The Principal Apportionment Data Collection, PADC, web-based application. And it's padc@cde.ca.gov.
I can't remember that. Sorry.
Let's
I'm
see.
gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I
It's
was
in the
trying to
chat.
copy it
It's a
over.
lot of
Oh.
letters.
Yeah. And that's why I
Many
was
P's
I'm like,
and
wait,
D's.
did I get the acronym? Like I know it in my head, and then I'm like, wait, did I get it right? But that user manual is the easiest to be able to pull up, and it has most of your questions in there. Where instructional minutes just go for the time and more like a master scheduling and whether or not you're doing it correctly, where the PADC shows you what's actually being accounted for.
Thank you, Sean. There's a reason I don't answer ADA questions.
Okay, I struggle with that one too. That's why I was like, wait, what was the question?
And we have a new question from Kelly at Pioneer Union. Question 1 says, speaking to DDs that showed up for 24-25, I have 2 SDNR 453 F1s for private school students. Do we need parent ed levels for private school students? Oh, good question. I didn't think so.
Yeah, I don't
But
think so either.
maybe we're not filtering out private school students and we're just
But we put in that new validation, and that's where I'm like, oh, did we miss something? But it was Heather that did it, so I don't think so.
It's validating enrollment status. It shouldn't trigger for enrollment status 50.
and I don't know. I mean, at least the error description doesn't say anything about, oh, enrollment status 10 or 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, H did it, so
Okay.
I was like, I have full confidence in that one.
Kelly, yeah, Kelly, if you could please put in a ticket, you can put Alex, my name on it. And if you could give me the SSID, that would be great. Thank you.
And just verify that they don't actually have primary enrollments or short-term enrollments, because we have seen private school students with an enrollment status 10 or 30.
Okay. Alrighty. Done with questions again. Question 2, Sin. When can we start pulling MEPS extracts? So the extract is available, and for anyone that is like MEPS what? That's the migrant something
I
program.
don't know.
But it's a new migrant file that was created, and that's available now. It's available in CALPADS, but thank you, Sin, migrant eligible program students extract. So that is available now, but you got to make sure you have your enrollments for the next school year already posted, right? So 25-26 enrollments need to be posted in CALPADS, and then you should be able to pull the extract. And Gary's showing you where. So on the extracts page, it's under ODS extracts, and it's the name of it should change. It should say MEPS on there. And if you wanted to get more information on that, there's a whole page on that in the user manual that talks about how you can download it and all sorts of goodies on there. Eileen's question 1. We are receiving requests to exit students with disabilities due to transfers for the 25-26 school year. Do we use the summer withdrawal in our enrollment date or follow the user manual and exit in prior school year and delete? Request to exit students due to a transfer. I don't know if I know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not really clear on what it means either. So it sounds like students transferring to a new district next year. You probably want to elaborate, Eileen, because I'm not really sure what your question is.
And I'm assuming that you've already posted the 25-26 enrollment, and so you want to know what to do. Like, do you no-show it or do you delete it? Is that the question?
I mean, if it's the difference between an E155 and a T160, I would just change the exit code to a T160.
And that's what Wendy's saying, possibly showing T160 and exiting in the SED system.
Yeah, so if you know that if you've already submitted their exit, presumably as an E155, now you know they're transferring, I would change the exit code to a T160 and exit them as a transfer within your local system. They are already rolled to next year, I'm assuming. If you've already created the enrollment, if you rolled over their enrollment for the next year, then I would delete that enrollment. Yes, exit in the prior year.
All right, folks, we just hit 4 o'clock.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, that's exactly the right amount of time. Thank you to everyone, CDE, CSIDS folks, SPED office. I really appreciate all your help. We'll see you guys next week. Same link, same time, just a different month. So yeah, have a good one. Thank you.